Hey guys, welcome to my series where I play every single Wii U game that has any kind of physical release here in North America. If you want more details on this series, check out the preview video I made. I'll be leaving that preview video in the description below. Game number 5, Xenoblade Chronicles X. One of the most expensive games I paid for. I wonder if I can write this off on my taxes. But I digress. Xenoblade Chronicles X was released on December 4th, 2015, developed by Monolith Soft and published by Nintendo. Xenoblade isn't a series I know very well. The most I know about it is just from Super Smash Bros. Because Shulk is in it and, you know, his famous phrase of, "I'm really feeling it." I never bothered with the game because I just saw them as your typical anime RPG, and also they were really expensive. But maybe Xenoblade isn't like all those other anime RPGs. Maybe it'll be really fun and I won't hate the characters. The game's story doesn't correlate with the previous games and works as a standalone title. It's good for me because I wasn't going to research the entire story of the previous games. So the opening cutscene is actually pretty cool. We're in the year 2054, a big space battle has broken out between the Earth and some unknown alien forces. Unfortunately for Earth, the aliens were just too powerful and destroyed pretty much everything of the Earth's defense and reduced the planet to nothing more than dirt and ash. Apparently, the coalition government knew that the Earth was going to war soon, so they devised an Earth colonization plan called Project Exodus, basically launching spacecrafts full of people into space to try and avoid being killed and hopefully rehomed. Not that many crafts were able to leave the Earth's atmosphere successfully, however. One ship, our main ship, the White Whale, was able to get away. The White Whale was wandering in space for 2 years, trying to find a new habitable planet to live on. Even after 2 years, the alien forces caught up with them and attacked. But thanks to this unknown lone hero, the White Whale was able to survive, with heavy damage, however. The damage was too much for the ship and it started to break apart. The gravitational pull of a nearby planet was able to catch the ship and the part full of people. We're safe for now. And now 2 months have passed and this is where we come in, the prologue. This game is broken up into chapters, 12 to be specific, and I'm probably going to be working on each part individually, so if you hear any changes in audio, that's why. This was a long game to go through, so I'll be keeping most of the story brief. It's one of those games where you really need to experience it for yourself. So the first thing we do is get to create our own character. That's pretty cool. First time in this whole series we're going to get this. Now I could be a lame-o and make myself into a boring isekai protagonist and think I'm cooler than I actually am and pretend I'm OP, but I decided to make my guy into a reject Tekken fighter with the eyes of Sauron. Usually when I make characters it's either an old guy, a dwarf, or some freaky abomination, like Leg Day from my WWE videos if you ever watch those. We wake up in a capsule of some kind where we are greeted by our soon-to-be friend and ally, Elma. She tells us we're pretty much the only survivor around this part of the planet. She asks us our name, but our character has memory loss, so he doesn't remember. But his name shall be... Bringo. Bringo Brongo. Elma tries to help us remember stuff about the White Whale, but we're too messed up for that. But hey, she gives us a weapon. 2 in fact, a rifle and a knife. And I'm thrown into our first battle. Had no idea what the hell I was doing for this first section, so I'm going to talk about it just a little bit later after we get out of this rainy area. So shortly after we exit the rainy area, and Elma tells us where we are, the planet Mira, and get introduced to a bunch of these indigenous creatures, which are just referred to as indigents. Elma suggests we make it to the closest habitat before sundown because more aggressive indigents lurk out at night. So now I'll talk about the combat because this whole prologue is basically just to get you acquainted with it. So it took me a while to get a firm grasp on the combat because the game doesn't really explain it to you. I guess I could read the digital manual, but oh well. So you engage combat by double tapping the R button to lock onto nearby enemies. Now you can press the A button to attack. You automatically attack with your rifle or your knife and you can switch between them freely. The battling isn't as automated as it seems. Another big mechanic are the arts, which you can switch between by using the D-pad. They're pretty vital for every battle because you don't have traditional items like potions or food. Some of the early arts we have are a flame grenade, which does a ton of damage, even more if they're stunned. We get a shield, which raises defense, etc. You can upgrade your arts later when you level up. Also, a green circle fills up around the arts sometimes. Once that's filled up, the art will actually do more damage. It's pretty useful. Defeating enemies will reward you with some craftables, I think, and some gear. So far the combat is pretty neat. It's awkward to get used to at first, but I'm guessing it's pretty similar to the first game's combat. Some enemies are passive while others aren't. This is determined by the eyeball next to their level. The eyeball is an aggressive creature and they will fight you if you get too close. You can drag other enemies into battle, but not recommended early on at least. Enemies can easily destroy you, even if they're like 1 or 2 levels above yours. My first death was to this giant walker thing. It does a ton of damage. Dying is kind of annoying because you gotta run all the way back, but it's probably not as bad later on because you do get fast travel and all that good stuff. I leveled up a bit and took down that walker that killed me. It's revenge, my dude. But continuing on with the story, we reach the habitat, the last surviving piece of the white whale. But before we can enter, we are attacked by our first boss, I guess, 3 Grexes. They're not super hard to take down, but I should also talk about avoiding damage. I don't know if some attacks just hit you no matter what, but there are attacks you can avoid, like the Grexes sometimes will jump like 50 feet in the air, and you can avoid that by just running out of the way. After defeating the Grexes, we head inside the habitat. This city is called New Los Angeles, or NLA. It's like a Fallout game or something. It's pretty cool looking, but this is the end of the prologue for now. Time to move on to Chapter 1. Now on to Chapter 1, which I'm going to refer to as the Lore Dump Chapter. The chapter to get you acquainted with some new characters as well as more story bits. I'll try to keep it brief because I'm bad at reciting story info, and also this takes like 50 minutes to go through. While going down the elevator, we get a brief look at the Director General, Maurice Choson. He might be evil. We also meet Irina and Gwyn, friends of Elma. They're part of the Interceptors, and we'll learn more about what the Interceptors are. They also become allies later on. While walking along, we notice a mech going nuts in the sky before crashing down. Then a child in a car comes speeding by to the crash site. A child driving a car, that's gotta be illegal. At the crash site, we meet Lynn, who will be our next party member. She's basically just Tails from Sonic, you know, kid genius. Not as annoying as Tails, well, at least for now. At least she can defend herself, unlike Sonic Force's Tails. And also we have Doug. Doug. What a name. He's classified as a Harrier, and much like the Interceptors, more on those guys later. Doug's pretty pissed at Lynn because she didn't fully check the skell properly after clearing it, and is even more pissed when he's forced to clean up the wreck. Yeah, those big mechs are called skells. I guess it's a badass name. Lynn offers us a tour of the NLA, showing us what we can eventually see and do, like buy armor and do odd jobs. After the tour, Elma suggests we go to the barracks, because she needs to check in with them. While at the barracks, we come across Kentaro Nagi, the Secretary of Defense of the NLA and the Commander of Blade. At this part, you can ask Nagi some questions about Blade and a recap of the intro, just in case you didn't fully understand it. Blade is essentially this task force in charge of making everything habitable for the common folk. Getting supplies, researching areas, defending the city, etc. We also learn about the Lifehold, a giant stasis chamber that was part of the White Whale, housing a bunch of people. Unfortunately, it broke apart during the crash, so now it's Blade's task to find all of the missing pieces. After the lore dump, we go back outside and learn of other things, like the shops. This terminal we can use to get side missions, another terminal for online play, I presume, and we get some lore about the skells. After the small tour, we return back to the barracks, where Nagi asks if we would like to be part of Blade. Lynn chimes in saying if you don't want to be a part of Blade, you're an idiot, essentially. Well, thanks, Lynn. Might as well agree, why not? I don't want to be a loser. Let's just join. Before we're a true member, however, we need to do a small job. Plant a data probe. The data probes help map out an area and they also mine resources. But now it's time for Chapter 2, actual gameplay again. Hopefully I can keep it brief. I think most of the lore dump is over with for now. So Chapter 2, we finally get to go out into the overworld. At least a bigger, more expansive part of the overworld. So this mission is fairly short. Before reaching the probe site, I decided to do some grinding and getting a bit more used to the combat. We have Lynn on our team now, and she's essentially the tank. She fights with a giant shield and a Gatling gun, so if that's not a tank, then I don't know what is. Another thing I learned about combat is limb damage. You can press the right stick to turn your lock-on reticle red and determine how much limb damage you dealt to the creature. Breaking limbs or other weird parts of the body can reduce the enemy's damage output or defense, or removing attacks entirely, like a tail whip if you cut that off. I don't know how to target specific limbs. The lock-on just kind of locks on to whatever, I guess. I just mash the R button and hopefully lock on to a new limb. I also died here again. Not going to announce every death, but this one I wanted to point out because it was kind of stupid and also kind of funny. I tried luring more enemies into combat, but the damage from these 3 Ovis, what they're called, was just a little too much. I died essentially to sheep. Yeah, I'm pretty lame. At the probe site, we come across 3 giant corpses of these monkeys called Simius. They all died to this giant Sinicula. These are weird names. Lynn informs us it would be almost impossible for one Sinicula to take on 3 Simius, considering one Simius could take on like 5 of them at once. Elma thinks this Sinicula is actually a tyrant. Tyrant enemies are mini-bosses, I guess. They're deceptive when it comes to fighting them. An example would be they'll appear on your screen as like a level 6 enemy, but in reality they're like a level 10. They're much stronger with more health, but drop better rewards as a positive. Lynn reminds you can upgrade your arts in the pause menu, which you should probably do because it's just good to do that. Anyways, the Tyrant is not that hard. At least this first one. He didn't really do that much damage, and I was able to throw up shields to keep us in the fight longer. To think the sheep enemies were harder than this. I mean, granted, there were 3 sheeps, and there's only one of these guys, so I can't be too hard on him. Well, let's go back to the barracks and check back with Nagi. Also, here's Commander Vanham. He would have met us earlier, but he's impatient. He calls us being reckless for fighting a tyrant on our trading mission, but also saying it was goddamn magnificent. Vanham also tells us we should join up in a division and gives us a brief overview of each of the 8 divisions you can join. I'm not going to go over all of them, but essentially each division is responsible for certain tasks, like the Pathfinders are responsible for planting probes and discovering new locations, or the Harriers, which are in charge of defending the city from tyrants and other enemies. You can choose whatever you want, but I decided to go with the Prospectors because, I don't know, mining and dwarves are cool, you know? They're mainly in charge of mining resources, duh, with the probes. We'll learn about that in Chapter 3. So cool, we joined. Now Vanham has a task for us. A team of Pathfinders, led by a guy named Nelson, went missing. They went to go plant a probe in the east, but never came back. So it's up to us to find them. So at the start of this chapter, we have access to the Blade Terminals, where you can get jobs to further increase your levels, get gear, and money. Most jobs involve collecting certain resources or fighting tyrants. They're kind of tough early on, so it's best to wait a bit on some of them. We also have access to the shop, where we can buy gear and weapons. Certain weapons can only be equipped by certain classes, however. Like Elma can only use dual guns and swords, and Lynn can only use shields and Gatling guns. For now, my character can only use an assault rifle and a knife. Armor can be equipped by anyone, no matter the class, thankfully. This was also the first instance of a side quest. You'll find characters with red marks above their head looking for help. I'm not going to go into detail about every side quest because it's not that integral. You just do them for experience and rewards. You can expect me to skip over talking about doing side missions and grinding later on. On our way to the site, we come across their Skell that was badly damaged in combat. It wasn't damaged by the usual indigents, rather something else. Lynn was able to pick up their location in a strange building just ahead of them, but there also seems to be other lifeforms in there that aren't indigents. Before we can report our findings back to HQ, these 2 aliens show up and tell us to surrender now or die. Trying to reason with them proves to be pointless, so we fight. These guys are known as the Prone. They refer to us as Earth creatures, so it's possible they might be involved in the destruction of Earth. Elma suggests we go into their base to find the commanding officer of these guys to see what the deal is, and maybe make peace with them. Probably not going to go well. So the Prone camp is interesting. They seem to be taming the wild Suids, those weird pig things, as battle beasts, strapping horns and armors to them, as well as having their own robots to fight with them. I also came across a Tyrant Prone. He wasn't too tough, but it's nice XP. So that signal from earlier, we tracked it down into this building. There are 3 Prone inside, standing over the bodies of Nelson and his squad. The leader of this Prone unit, Glennar, says we are unwelcome on this planet and need to be executed. Reasoning with them is out of the window at this point, so it's time to fight. Great idea, Elma. Glennar and his goons are pretty easy to take down. All things considered, it wasn't too hard, they didn't have any special tricks or anything like that. It's now time to head back to HQ and report on this Prone species. But before that, again, we hear a noise coming from the shipping container. Opening it up will release this small thing named Tatsu, which both Lynn and Alma mistake for a talking potato and would probably taste pretty good. Tatsu is basically our small animal companion for our journey. He's kind of annoying because he refers to himself in the third person, which I never liked for any character, but that's just me. You might find that cute or funny, but I don't. Tatsu explains to us that he's part of the Nopon race and was kidnapped by the Prone after being mistaken for a piece of food. The Prone are not native to this planet and are killing off the Nopon to extinction. According to the Tatsu, however, there are apparently other alien races killing them too. Who they are is unknown as of now. After the conversation, Tatsu becomes a member of our team. He doesn't fight, all Nopon are pacifist apparently. He does give us this item called a follow ball, which helps guide you towards your current objective, going down the exact path you need to follow. It can be useful for finding caves, which are kinda hard to spot in this game. Back at the barracks, we discuss how we should cook and prepare Tatsu for dinner. Well, okay, we don't actually go through with that. Van Ham makes Tatsu a member of Blade, and Elma stresses to us even more to find the life hold. The Prone are real assholes, so it's important to get a hold of it quickly before it's destroyed. Now we go on to Chapter 4. Not yet, at least. So at this point in the game, the story missions have requirements to be fulfilled before starting them. Just to keep it from not being cluttered, I'm not going to be showing off what I'm doing in between each story mission. A lot of it just involves grinding and doing quests not super related to the story. Sure, there are actually missions you need to do to actually access the next story mission. If they're important in the main chapter, I'll be sure to mention it. I just don't want to record like 2 hours of gameplay and use 3 minutes of it when I have like really nothing to say. I'll just mention some of the more important things that can be accessed now after finishing Chapter 3. You can actually choose a class. Each class has their own arts and weapons they're restricted to. You can choose whatever you want, whenever you want, so you're not locked into one class. Some classes are probably better for certain situations. You can probably just stick to one class if you like. With each class, you also have access to skills you can equip. There are little buffs like giving your character more health or a higher crit chance. You can also upgrade them, much like arts. You can now recruit Arena, Erwin, or Doug to your party if you find them in the district. A required quest explains that you can have probes collect information or mine resources using special probes on existing ones. It's great for getting rewards for my division at least. You can also play with others online. I didn't do this because most players were way higher level than I was, so I didn't want to breeze through everything. I'm actually surprised there were still people playing this game. But for now, let's move on to Chapter 4. Before that actually, I want to talk about the Frontier Nav, which you get full access to after this chapter. It's basically the map, but proves itself to be invaluable for this whole playthrough. I know the footage is kinda grainy, recording the gamepad with my phone is not very optimal. With the gamepad, you can survey the entire land of Mira, check all of the probe locations, fast travel, check for any missions, division rewards. It's great. You can even check what requirements you need for each mission when you click on them. This is probably one of the main reasons why this wasn't ported to the Switch yet. I mean, sure, you can play with a normal controller, but that would be a lot more cumbersome. You know, pausing all the time. It's not that good. Chapter 4 starts off with us having some fried chicken, because I said so. Hey, we need some food now and again. But for the real assignment, Van Ham picked up a reading in Noctilum, or Nightglow Woods as Tatsu calls it. Noctilum is a neighboring land to the one we're on now, called Primordia. A piece of the Lifehold might be located over there. The Pathfinders scouted the area saying there are no intelligent life to speak of over there, so it seems pretty safe to go over there. Tatsu thinks that's blasphemy because he goes there all the time, and there's always intelligent life form over there. But it's never bad to stay too safe, I guess. Van Ham suggests to meet up with Lau and his team because he's over there installing probes nearby. It took a bit to get over here because I didn't install any probes in this general area. It's a long story, but we end up finding Lau. First thing Lau brings up is that Elma's partners, us, are not the same from before. Her other partners died to a very strong indigen. Sorry about that, Elma, but it's not very reassuring to us. We ask Lau about the Lifehold, but he has no information on it. He asks to tag along with us, becoming another party member. He just wants to see the Lifehold for himself. Sorry, Doug, I guess you're going back for now. Noctilum is a pretty cool looking area. It's more jungly in comparison. Did a little bit more grinding here. I also accidentally triggered a boss here. It's level 60. No thanks. You can run from battles if you're quick enough. Hopefully the boss just doesn't hit you first, or else you have to respawn, and it sucks. Nearby where we're going, we come across another alien. He's not a prone, thankfully, but when we mention that to him, he calls them savages in the most British voice. Well, this guy is known as a Laserve, or just L. He's also a native to this planet, much like the Nopon. L informs us that he gained a bunch of knowledge about us from a wrecked terminal nearby and harvested some data. Hey, it might be the Lifehold. Unfortunately for us, a bunch of prone are destroying this piece. So the only appropriate thing to do at this point is kill all of them. That's a great idea. But surprise, another alien appears. This alien ass-cheek lady known as a ganglion. She's basically a zealot. They basically just want to destroy the human race because the entire race and their technology and knowledge is a cancer to them. Yeah, she actually says that. Another boss fight against the ganglion. We learnt her name in this one. It's apparently Goetta. And the two prones. She's not too hard, but she does have some annoying moves like stunning you in place and the ability to radiate electricity, which will damage you if you get too close. She can also throw a giant electric ball, which does a bunch of damage. Before we can finish her off, a Skell flies in and gets her to safety. But there was something odd about that Skell. Elma recognizes it as one of the mechs that destroyed Earth. So whoever is piloting the mechs are also working with the ganglion and the prones. On our way back to the city, we now have access to a new terminal near the shop. In this terminal, you can create augments for your weapons and gear, as well as other base upgrades. Finally, all of the stuff that you get from enemies comes into use now. The augments are pretty neat. You can give your weapons extra effects like more damage to certain monsters or more accuracy. It's pretty cool. Reporting back to HQ, the piece that was destroyed by the prone was not part of the Lifehold. Rather, it was archive data from the Library of Congress. Which is still pretty bad. A bunch of record history is now lost to some jerk-off aliens. It's speculated, but probably true, that the aliens that attacked us followed us to Mira and is trying to kill us for good. Also, L can now be recruited as a squad member from now on. He wanted to tag along with us. He seems pretty safe, I guess. But this is the end of Chapter 4. Now for some off-screen grinding and quests to level up. Before starting Chapter 5, there is a quest involving Arena, which you need to complete. If it gets brought up during the chapter, I'll mention it, but it's just not worth going over for now. Chapter 5. I'm a little peeved from this one, only because OBS almost trashed my whole recording of this because I recorded just over an hour. So if my footage looks odd, I had to re-record it in smaller segments. It wasn't too obnoxious, at least I didn't have to play through the entire game again. If it came to that, I would probably just take footage from somebody else. I don't want to sit through like 15 hours of gameplay again. But I digress. So we start off this chapter by making more food. I'm pretty sure every chapter from now on is going to start with us eating food, which, you know, I'm totally down for. Anyways, the real mission is brought to us by Irina and Erwin. They had a job to kill a bunch of vicious indigents, but got a call from Vanham for a more important assignment. So we oblige on taking on Vanham's mission. They show us an overview of the northeastern land of Oblivia, where an unidentified ship was spotted. It's not ganglion and was apparently under fire from them, so it's our job to try and make friends with these unknown aliens. We arrive at Sandy Bum Canyon, well that's what the Nopons call it, and notice that there's nothing really here. Until we see these three things complaining about turrets set up by the ganglion. Tatsu says this race of alien are called the Manon, who appear to gear before the humans on this planet. The Manon also sound like chipmunks for some reason. I would show you, but again the recording got messed up. Thanks OBS. The Manon informs us that their spacecraft is at the bottom of the ravine. They are unable to escape on the ship due to the anti-aircraft turrets surrounding the hole, so we agree to help them out. To change the subject for a bit, Oblivia is an okay area. It's just a giant canyon area. There's a really annoying weather effect here where lightning will strike and do like 50 damage every few seconds. It's pretty annoying. I did find an augment and I attached it to my clothes, which prevents that. So that's nice. So now our task is to kill the turrets, or destroy the turrets, since turrets are not really alive. All of them are guarded by the prone and their robots, so there's a lot of fighting here. I do want to mention more things about combat, things I've learned. Sometimes your teammates will actually tell you to use certain moves. If you have the art equipped, it'll start flashing. When this happens, if you use it, you will recover health for yourself and the member who suggested it. You also might have noticed the QTE of pressing the B button. It pops up frequently and it'll heal all of your team members once you press it. I don't know how this activates, I'm pretty sure it's just random, I don't know. Occasionally enemies will have a lightning bolt next to their level. This means that if you're in battle and they get into range, they'll automatically join in. I think that's how it works, or just at the start of the battle, if they see it, they'll just join in even if they're far away. I'm not too sure. But after some time, we destroy all three turrets. We arrive back to where we first met the Manon, but they're not here. We notice some explosions in the distance, so we go and check that out. We see the Manon being surrounded by a few prone and skells, threatening them to join the ganglion because they would prove to be useful. This tactic worked on the prone race, apparently. Before the Manon get fried, we step in and ambush one of the mechs. It's time for a boss. 3 prones and mechs. They can dish out quite a bit of damage. Lynn and Doug actually died here, but I was able to get through it without resetting. So that's it? Well, it seemed like it at first, but one mech was still alive and started to shoot at Tatsu doing his little victory dance. How dare you. We jump in to save Tatsu, but not without losing our arm. our robotic arm? Yeah, I'm actually a robot. Who would have guessed? What a twist, actually. The proper name of what we're actually called is a mimeosum. Elmo tells us, but can't explain it at the moment because, we don't have an arm. We need a medic. After some time, we get our arm reattached and we're good to go. It's all thanks to Lynn. Well, thanks, Lynn. You're so much better than Tails. So now Elmo explains what a mimeosum is, or just mims. Apparently every human that we see is a mim, robots that are meant to mimic our human form. The reason for creating mims was to still experience life while inside the white whale. This is because the lifehold not only has other people inside of it, but us too, so if the lifehold gets destroyed, we die along with it. Game over, man. Game over. But there's more. That big tower in the center of the city with the percentage on it shows how much power the lifehold has left. Once that reaches 0, it's over for the entire human race, essentially. Well shit, dude, dropping some heavy stuff onto us. On a lighter note, the Manon returned with us back to the district and are now citizens. They also inform us that the Ganglion is just part of another big crime syndicate known as the Samar Federation, spanning over 6 million light years. Yeah, that's not scary at all. Also, we get to see their ship. This huge thing. You're telling me those turrets I destroyed could have taken this down? I somehow don't believe that. Well, that's it for this chapter. We get access to the Manon ship as a new area. So that's nice. Well, this chapter doesn't open with food. I'm upset. But it actually opens up with the Ganglion forces being overwhelmed by this new species of creature we haven't seen. These purple guys who devour and stomp the hell out of the prone. I was gonna say I felt bad, but I remember that the Ganglions suck ass, so ignore whatever nice thing I thought I was about to say. We then cut to this place, where we get to see Alien Ash Cheek Lady again, and some new guy who looks straight out of Mass Effect. This guy mentions something about the Great One, and that whatever the prone we're searching for near those purple things may be a part of it. Ash Cheek Lady also mentions something about getting pulled into a beam of light and left stranded somewhere with us humans. This might get explained later, I'm not sure. Another guy comes in, bearing news to Grandmaster Luxar. That's his name. Whatever this news is, we won't know about it for the time being. Anyways, more food. Finally, it's always nice to eat, with our good friends Lau and El. Speaking of which, Lau tells us of a destroyed mech found earlier. No one can identify what it is, so it must be special. This mech was what the Ganglion were after in that previous cutscene. They've tried many times but was never able to reach it. El calls the land the mechs in Tainted Territory, home to those purple things. The tainted creatures never leave that part of the land and will attack any living thing that goes near it, besides under tainted. But since we're artificial, the tainted should not perceive us as actual food, so we might be okay. Except for Tatsu and El, but they stay behind so they don't die. Lau teams up with us on this assignment. He's pretty underleveled in comparison, so I decided to grind him up. While grinding, I'll discuss another new feature we got at the end of the last chapter, Overdrive. So the center art is the Overdrive mode. Once you reach 3000 TP, you can activate it to go berserk. All of your other arts have insane cooldown, and you can pretty much go nuts with every ability you have. It only lasts for 10 seconds, so use it wisely. I usually save it for boss fights, but there would be points where I accidentally activate it when I didn't want to. When we reach the Tainted Land, Elmo was right in that the Tainted ignore us because they don't see us as a fleshy life form. You can still get into a fight with them if you get too close, but they aren't hard to avoid. Or hard to kill for that matter. We arrive at the crash site of the Skell, but there's something off about it. Elmo feels that the Skell is radiating some kind of dark matter, like the ghost of the person driving it is still lingering inside of it. But we can't jump to conclusions yet though, so we call up HQ to bring it back. Now it's time to leave. This was pretty easy all in all. Well, the mech was supposed to be an easy grab, but it ain't no easy grab. Because now we have T, Tatsu. Somebody will get that reference. Yeah, Tatsu is here now. He snuck on the helicopter to bring us food. It's a nice thought and all, but he really screwed us. Now the Tainted are going to become aggro and attack us now to try and eat Tatsu. So our first fight is with the Tainted Koro, which are similar to the Grexes. They're not hard to fight, but the next Tainted after can pose a problem. He looks like the Alpha Black Lion from the Cabela game I just finished. Oh good, reminded of that game again. Much like the Alpha Lion, I get completely destroyed by him. The fight was going well in the beginning, but the Lion has this 3-hit combo which does massive damage and I wiped out here. The second time around though, I kicked his ass. I activated Overdrive and completely melted him down. First try, definitely. It's not over yet though. 3 more Tainted Sphinx, that's their official name, come by looking for a fight. But luck is on our side. This giant dragon bird thing comes in and wrecks all 3 of the Tainted. I gotta say this whole entire scene was pretty cool. It looked like it was about to go after us next near the end, but it flew away instead. Well, good. Lau said he could have taken it on, which I would be totally down to see. He probably would get destroyed too. We arrive back at the hangar, and Lynn gets a better look at the Skell. She's unsure if it's actually a Skell. While the exterior looks like it, the purple material is strange and completely unknown, and there's no power source for the thing. She hypothesizes that it might be some sort of idol for an alien god or something similar. Maurice, yeah, he's here. He was in a couple of other cutscenes. I didn't really mention him until now. Says more research needs to be done on the mech, and Van Ham thinks that the time is better spent on Ares. He would have explained it, but was cut off by Nagi. It has something to do with Elma. I don't know if it's good or bad. Guess we'll find out later. We then cut back to this place again, where we finally see that news he was told about earlier. Here we meet Gajog, this Thundercat-looking guy. He's under control of the Ganglions, is forced to take orders from them. He's a part of a race called the Rothians. I guess Gajog made a deal with Bluxar about recovering something related to the Great One he keeps mentioning. If he fails his mission to us humans, his entire race is on the line and will most likely be eradicated. So you know it's not looking so hot for him. This concludes Chapter 6, but after this chapter we get access to something I've been wanting to use for a while. A Skell. Finally. Well, okay, you can't immediately use it. You need to complete these 8 exams given to you by Commander Van Ham. The assignments he gives range from being pretty easy to extremely tedious and annoying. Like, there's one part where you need honey oil, which only drops from Senicula, and it's a very low drop rate. I ended up buying it from the reward center in the barracks with tickets. I probably killed like 20 Senicula, and I had no luck. I've looked at things online saying you kill the back, you kill the front first, and it would drop down, but it doesn't work. I'm pretty sure the Skell is not required until later, but I suggest getting it now. For one, it's pretty cool, and two, it makes traveling the land way much faster. When you first get it, it kind of sucks because you need to buy weapons and armor for it. Skells are able to dish out large damage and are great for any tyrants. You have a fuel gauge which drains during combat. It refills automatically when you're not in it, but it's really slow. I think you can buy fuel for it, I'm not too sure on that one yet. The downside to using a Skell though is dying. If the Skell gets destroyed during combat, you need to pay to have it fixed with a voucher. So it's best to use the Skell for major fights or traveling the world. So Chapter 7 is pretty short actually. Van Ham gets a call from Arena, who seems to be having trouble and requests reinforcements. Her team apparently found a piece of the life hold. It's not the core, but hey, this is good news. Of course, the Ganglions have a base set up nearby who are blocking the way to the life hold, so we get called in to help. Before Irina gets the idea to charge into the Ganglion army by herself, we arrive in time and take on the Ganglions ourselves. They weren't hard to kill, the Skell makes it easier for sure, but even without it, these guys are a cakewalk. Even after this encounter, our character even says these guys were pathetic. It's all a ploy though, a diversion in fact. We need to catch up to Irina, quick. We arrive there and it's pretty calm. Said too calm. Elma goes all Admiral Akbar on us and says this whole thing is a trap. It's none other than Alien Ash Cheek Lady who ganked us and destroyed the Lifehold unit in the process. Ash Cheeks goes through this whole monologue saying she knows about the Lifehold and the significance of it. Instead of watching all the humans die with the Lifehold, she'd rather go in and kill them herself because it's more amusing for her. Elma is all like, "Fuck you, Ash Cheek Lady," and we fight. This fight could actually be pretty tough if you don't have the Skell to fight in. Near the end, both Lin and Lau actually got knocked out, so expect to get wiped a few times if you go in unprepared. In the end, we kill Alien Ash Cheek Lady. I presume she's dead because her mech is in flames and she doesn't arise from it, so she's probably dead. Arena then starts to question why the Ganglion are doing such horrible things to us humans. Maybe it's because they fear what they don't know. I understand why Arena would feel like that, especially after we learned that Arena had a younger brother that was killed on Earth and wasn't able to make it to the White Whale. So much death in this game. It's sad. We return back to Commander Van Ham and notify him of the destroyed Lifehold unit. More human records are now lost forever. But to help cheer us up, Van Ham treats us for dinner. But Tatsu chimes in saying Lin is the best cook. So cool. More food to end this chapter. Nothing really new to discuss between chapters this time, so let's just move on to the next one. Chapter 8. This is where things are starting to get a little more hairy. Our traditional lunch at the start of the chapter is interrupted by an alarm. How alarming! Oh, that wasn't funny. The alarm was sounded off by Nagi. He doesn't sugarcoat what he wants to say and gets straight to the point. We are at war, gentlemen. Nagi informs us that Sauron's army, the Ganglion forces, are marching their way to NLA. They are equipped with a lot of similar weapons like ours, like skells and stuff. Shosan tried to negotiate with them, but as you could probably guess by now, that doesn't work. So now every member of Blade must defend the city. All the non-combatants are taken aboard the Manon ship where it's safe. But now it is time to defend the city. Van Ham tries one last time to stop the Ganglion march towards the city, but, doesn't work. So this part is fighting waves of different Ganglion skells. There's like 4 waves of 2 or 3 of them. So this is the perfect time to talk more about the skell in combat. Like I said before, these skells are powerful and are best used for larger enemies. The skell also has a built-in ability to bind targets. You'll get a prompt sometimes to press both the ZR and ZL button together, or you'll be thrown into a QTE. During this time, you can make your opponent immobile for 10 seconds, if you get the timing of your button presses down. This is also a siphon of fuel. You can gain your fuel back from this, which can be quite handy so you don't have to spend precious resources on it. Another thing to mention, a pretty bad thing, is limb damage. Yes, the skell can take limb damage. Parts of your skell can be broken off, usually resulting in one of your attacks being unusable until the fight is over. It's really only ever going to happen if you're in a long fight, and we'll get to that soon. Anyways, we seemingly cleared out all of the Ganglions, but it was all a facade, because they snuck in from above and are now invading the city. But not before we get a sick-ass cutscene with Arena's team fighting a bunch of Ganglion. It's pretty badass. It doesn't end so gracefully though. One of her team members, Marcus, was blown up by a rally of missiles. Marcus did have some screen time throughout the games, so it wasn't just a completely random death. I would tell you more about him, but I honestly don't really remember much about him. Sorry, Marcus. We also then see Lau, who is in charge of guarding the mysterious skell and ended up leaving it to a different squad. I wonder how this will turn out. We get some more badass mech fighting until we meet 2 new adversaries, Riz and Dagon. They essentially replace Ass Cheek Lady as a new antagonist. They're proving to be a powerful force and took down a bunch of skells according to Van Ham. This next part of the level can be pretty tough if you take the wrong path. You need to make your way to the center of the district, but every path you go down is flooded with Ganglion. Sometimes up to 8 can attack you at once and you'll die pretty quickly. I took the farthest path out and went in between buildings. It worked out for the most part. Now here comes the fight with Riz and Dagon. Out of the 2, Dagon was the main threat here. I actually didn't even notice that I had to fight Riz alongside of him. She wasn't that much of a threat and I beat her up pretty quickly. Dagon though, man, this guy was brutal. His attacks wiped out both Elma and Lyn, so I was stuck fighting him one-on-one. While his punches do less damage while in the skell, he's able to stagger you and can even make you flinch. Overdrive really helped in this fight. I have this one attack that does like 10,000 damage if I get it off. After spamming shields and using my strongest melee attacks, Dagon is beat. After the fight, Elma tries to send a message home with Riz. If you can guess, it's trying to make another negotiation with the Ganglions. Riz, in response, laughs in her face. I mean, I can't blame her. It is pretty comical at this point, the amount of times a failed negotiation happens. There's also an explosion in the hangar that we notice. The Ganglion took off with the mysterious skell. Man, only if Lau stayed there. But we actually get to see what happened. It was Prince Kajarg. Yeah, it's Prince Kajarg. I didn't really mention that, but yes, he is a prince. He stormed in and effortlessly killed the other Blade team that was standing guard. He even gets backup with his own Rothian skells, which one-shot the Blade skells. This guy's pretty tough, but that's an understatement. Oh, we'll get to that. Oh yeah, we will. So yeah, they take off with the skell, but Kajarg isn't too happy with it. He resents the idea that he had to destroy an entire city just to get one stupid piece of technology. Yeah, Kajarg is not all for this crap. We cut back to Riz and Elma, Riz saying the plan was successful because they stole the mech. But Elma snaps back saying that Riz's job was to destroy the city and failed completely. Get absolutely fucked, Riz. We get another cutscene mourning the loss of Marcus. We try to make light of the situation by saying we'll create another meme of him that's more attractive than Gwyn. Sorry, Gwyn. Lau was ashamed that he couldn't keep the skell safe because he left his post. I knew this was going to happen. And Elma wonders to herself how the Ganglion knew we had this skell in our possession. None of the Ganglion were there when we stole it away, so I wonder. And the final shot of this chapter is Luxar stating that this mech was the divine vessel for the Great One. Oh, the anticipation. Wonder what's going to happen next. Chapter 9. Oh boy. Okay, so it starts off with food. Yeah, cool. Then Van Ham gives us our debriefing. The Pathfinders found another piece of the Lifehold. Not sure if it's the core or not, but hey, good news. The piece is located in a new part of the world, Sylvalum. Van Ham also sent Lau's team there as well, so hopefully we can regroup with him and claim it together. We find Lau by himself. His entire team got wiped out. Lau refuses to be brought back to HQ to get patched up. He wants us to reach the Lifehold piece now before any ganglions show up. He gives us the coordinates and we're on our way. Not before Lau suggests to Lin to stay back to not be killed. Yeah, throughout the game, Lau seems to care most about Lin's safety. I'm not sure why, maybe it has something to do with Lau's wife and daughter being killed on Earth. Yeah, this was mentioned much earlier, I just didn't go over it. I got a lot of game to unpack here, and I'm not going to cover everything. I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version. Just wait for like the Chugga Conroy Let's Play in like a year or something, I don't know. So Sylvalum is another decent world. I really like the music here, it's very soothing. But we're about to get something that's not so soothing. Another ambush. You know, this is the second ambush we got. I blame Lau on this one. The Rothians are the perpetrators of this ambush, and they have us outnumbered and tell us to lower our weapons or get blasted to bits. In response, Tatsu actually takes off his glasses, which I thought was pretty funny. Gajarg isn't too keen on this idea, as you might have guessed. He then explains that the ganglions do in fact fear the humans, but their actual physical bodies. He then says that if he knew why they were so afraid of it, he'd ruin their plans. Because he absolutely hates these guys. But before being taken away, Elma questions why such a proud species is being reduced to serve under scum like the ganglion. Well, we all know why from earlier, but even though their homeland and people were taken away, their pride is still with them. Instead of following Luxar's orders, Gajarg says if we can beat him in a battle, he'll let us go. But if we lose, we just respawn over and over again. And this is where I hit my first brick wall of the playthrough, and so far my only brick wall of the playthrough. So this first part of the fight is completely fine. You fight Gajarg along with Bweed, the blue cat lady, and a bunch of other Rothian soldiers. They can dish out a bunch of damage, but I wouldn't call it super hard. There's more to the fight, however. So Gajarg states that this wasn't the real fight. The real fight starts now, and he boards his Skell. And what happens now? I get my ass kicked. You gotta fight both Gajarg and Bweed's mechs here. Well, at least if you die here, you don't have to fight them outside the mechs again, so I guess that's good. So the second fight, I decided to focus on Bweed's mech first because it was a lot weaker compared to Gajarg's, and then I would focus Gajarg afterwards. You know, makes sense, kill the minions first. It worked, but it didn't last though. Once Gajarg reaches like 80-70% health, he becomes immune to damage and like 4 or 5 Skells join the fight. Yeah, this was not going well. I died so much at this point, I learned that you can actually make the fight easier. So, let's try that. Did it work? Kind of. I was able to get much further into the fight, but I ran across another problem. Once Gajarg is at really low health, he'll summon this meteor shower, which does so much damage to my entire team, they all end up wiping from it. He also has this stupid-ass laser attack, which knocks you 50 feet in the air, and it lasts for like 10 hours. It was extremely annoying. So I tried leveling up a bunch. I got to like level 39 and I tried different strategies. And guess what? I still died. See, my idea for the fight was to use the Skell to defeat Bweed's mech, use the Skell to fight the first part of the Gajarg, and then once the Rothian Skells spawned, I would use Overdrive and then kill him quickly. Then I would hop out to damage Gajarg just in my physical body until the meteor shower attack. I would hop back into the Skell and then fight him there and win. It's a pretty good strat, but it never worked. My Skell would always just take massive limb damage throughout the fight, so it just never worked. It never worked. It was a complete pain in the ass. It's not like I was fighting poorly, I was just incredibly unlucky. But there was one more idea I had, and this was the savior of the fight. I bought another Skell. Yeah, you can actually own multiple Skells. I gave my starter Skell to Elma while I used the very expensive 300,000 credit one. Doing this made the fight trivial. None of my teammates actually fell here. The Skell I bought came with this really strong weapon which does even more damage from behind. Almost up to 40,000 damage. It was great and extremely effective. To think me grinding up to level 40 didn't even matter in this fight, but spending money did. I could see where EA got their inspiration from. After the fight, Gajarg thanks us for the encounter. Sure dude, whatever. And tells us where we can find the Ganglion stronghold, and the land up north surrounded by lava and rock. We also get informed that Lau was admitted to maintenance and is making a swift recovery. Let's go meet with him. But first we cut to Luxar getting a video message from Gajarg. He basically says in the most "I'm quitting this job, but fuck you" way possible that he can't carry out his task of eliminating the human race and decides to leave his services. They are mercenaries after all, so they're not totally bound to him. Luxar is pissed off, of course, but, you know, who cares? You suck, Luxar. Gajarg makes a vow to his subordinates to become lawless vagabonds, subject to no one. Everyone liked that. We then arrive back at maintenance to check up on Lao. Doug is also here too. While Lin is checking up on Lao, Elma pulls Doug aside to talk about Lao. She suspects he might be a spy working for the Ganglion, only because each time a piece of the Lifehold was found, it always resulted in an ambush, and Lao was involved in some way, even planning out this mission. Doug says she shouldn't jump to any conclusions right now, and to wait until Lao is feeling better to interrogate him. Now this concludes Chapter 9. After this chapter we get a mission to add flight to our skills, and you should get it immediately, because it's really fun, and traversal is so much faster with it. It's also really good for the next chapter. Chapter 10 is not too bad in terms of difficulty. Of course, we start off with more food. This may be the last time we start with food because I ran out of options for food choices. It's very sad. Before our mission debriefing, Van Ham reveals to us that there's a spy among us working for the Ganglions under the Pathfinders. Could it be Lao? It's not revealed as of now, but I'm just shaken to find out, and I'm pretty sure it's Lao. Let's be honest, what other Pathfinder would it be? But the real mission of this chapter is to fix a probe in Sylvalum that went corrupt. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty easy, I can do that. We then cut to a scene with Riz and Dagon. Yeah, remember those clowns? They're seen taking a giant battleship of some sorts, and they're planning to go straight to NLA to destroy all of the humans inside. Well, that's no good. We then cut to Luxar, getting notified by his lackey that Riz took off with the Zoofarg, that was the name of the giant ship, without permission. Luxar, again, is pissed, but also again, don't care, you suck. We then arrive at the defective probe, and Lin fixes it in like 10 seconds. That was pretty easy. But Lin starts to become distraught about never actually finding the core. We planted a bunch of probes around the planet and yet have not found a single trace of the thing at all. Elma reassures Lin that the Lifehold core is close by and shouldn't be so worried about it. If it was further away, the MIMS would actually start lagging out. Man, even when you're in a different body, you still can experience lag. It's everywhere, man. Well, before we can head back, Riz shows up in time with the Zoofarg, so we can destroy it before she causes any trouble. Boss time with this massive behemoth of a ship. The fight is not hard, like, at all. Now sure, I did die a few times because most of the fight is airborne and none of my other members had skells equipped, so I had to reset, even buying another skell just to be safe. But I didn't have to because I overestimated this fight completely. The Zoofarg doesn't really attack that often and does like very, very little damage. The real threat are the enemies it spawns, and those should be your focus on the first half of the fight. Once you clear them out, start attacking the ship. Once more enemies come out, attack them and rinse and repeat. Riz will transform the Zoofarg during Phase 2, becoming this four-legged dragon thing. It looks kind of bizarre, but I guess it's kind of cool. It kind of looks like the Meyerklops from Pikmin 3 and the Blue Dragon from Blue Dragon, if you played that game. But the second phase is somehow easier than the first one. Now I did lower the difficulty of this fight, to be fair, but I probably still would have been fine without that. All you do is fly around and hit these giant discs and go for the kill. My team and I barely took any damage. It was kind of let down. But, you know, after fighting Gajarg, I'm glad it was this easy. The Zoofarg is basically the capper demon of this game. The enemies are harder to fight than the actual boss. After beating it, the Zoofarg blows up along with Riz and Dagon. Guess they're dead for good. Oh well. I kind of like Dagon, he was kind of cool, but Riz was just annoying. And that's it for Chapter 10. There's not much that happens at the end of Chapter 10, so let's move on. Chapter 11, we're coming down to the wire now. It starts off with Lin cooking Tatsu. It's finally paid off. We now get to eat this boiled nopon. Well, no. Again. Elma gets a call from Van Ham to get to the hangar immediately. Lao is feeling better, but Lao is causing some trouble. There's a standoff between Van Ham and Lao. Lao stole a very important data file with classified information. When questioned why by Elma, Lao said she should have let him die that day when we saved him and that she was right in saying he was a Ganglion spy. I totally knew that. Well, this is going to cost us both the data terminal and Elma's skell, the Prague Ares. Yeah, remember the Ares? The Ares was mentioned earlier back in Chapter 6. Doug, Irina, and Gwyn, not Erwin, storm in to question what the hell is up with Lao. Doug pointed his gun directly at him, but Vanham told him to lower his weapon in fear of destroying the data file. It's the only copy of that file. Lau tells us he shares a common goal with the Ganglion. Doug asks what it could be, but he replies with, "You already know the answer." Nope, not really. So why did Lau steal that data? Well, because he works for the Ganglions now. He's just going to give him that information. Duh. The data was meant to isolate all probe locations, ruling them out so we can get a clear and direct path to the Lifehold core. Sure enough, it worked, but Lau stole it before they could truly test it, and deleted all the backup files. So now we have to hunt Lau down, who went to the Ganglion base inside of Cauldros, the final area of the game. It's a big lava area, it's a pretty neat area, but it does have Gajarg syndrome and sometimes rains down fire, dealing massive damage. Arriving at the base, the door is shut and Lin can't seem to open it. Tatsu notices a smaller yet more obvious entrance to get inside. Why didn't we try this first? Well, it's because there are a ton of Ganglion patrolling the area. You're going to have to fight a bunch of these guys to get through. If you're leveled high enough, it shouldn't be too tough. Near the end, we fight one last Skell, who in turn drops a key to open that big door. We can now bring our Skells inside with us. After riding down the long elevator, we finally meet up with Lau. Lau tells us he became a bodyguard to protect Luxar from the humans to hope deter them away or lead them into traps. Lau says once the Ganglion destroy the Lifehold core, we'll be free at last and stop living a huge lie. Lin bumps in, saying how could we be free if our bodies would be better off destroyed. Lau claims that everyone is already dead, our flesh and blood burnt away with the earth. Elma changes the subject. She looked like she might know more about this actually, but she asks for the data file back. Lau refuses of course, and then we fight Lau in the Prague Ares. The first phase of the fight is nothing too tough. He's a giant mech with strong attacks and can topple your mech if you're not careful. But this isn't the real fight, as you would probably guess by now. The first phase of these fights now are just a little taste of what's to come. After dealing half of his health, we get another cutscene. Lau states that this is wrong and humanity should have just died out with Earth. Lin believes he doesn't really think that, saying he wouldn't have joined Project Exodus in the first place. He was a believer at first. He knew we couldn't save billions of people from being scorched in such a small window of time. He then finally reveals the truth. If you weren't a person of extreme importance, like being rich or connected with some first world elite, you were left to die on Earth. The only reason we made it onto the White Whale is so that they can quote-unquote exploit our talents. The people who started Project Exodus had the people with potential boxed up in the core, and everyone else was completely worthless to them, according to Lau. He then says to ask Elma if we don't believe him. Yeah, she was there at the start. She doesn't agree on how a majority of people were treated, but she doesn't see how Lau sabotaging the whole thing justifies it. They were just acting to save the human race. She never understood why humans would separate themselves according to race, religion, country, or age. But what does it matter in the end? The differences are insignificant on a genetic level. Lau says it isn't insignificant, not to humans at least, also stating how would she understand. We also get the truth on why Lau joined up with Exodus. He didn't join to save the human race, but his family, his wife and daughter that were left on Earth. He had hope that joining would allow them to be saved as well, but the hope was crushed. Elma says no one deserves to die, but Lau rebuts by saying to try and say that to the millions of people left on Earth. Elma knew who made it onto the ship and didn't respond to anyone who asked who actually successfully came aboard the ship. The decision made at the time was to save a subset of humanity or let them go to total extinction. But now it's time for the true fight with Lau. Lau is definitely a lot tougher than last time. The first you'll probably notice in this fight is Lau being completely immune to all of your attacks. So what's going on here? So I don't really know when or why he becomes immune to damage, but the best spots to attack are his weak points, on his head or his crotch. Yeah, that's pleasant. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't. I was close to beating him on my first try, but there was one issue. Lau has a huge AoE attack that does massive damage and knocks you to the floor. He follows that up with a 3-sword combo usually, and kills you with that if you're low enough. I tried a second time, but I did much worse. The third time, however, went much better. I just bought in 2 more Skells for Elma and Lind. I would have given one to L, but I didn't have enough money. The only things that went down in this attempt were L near the end and Lind's Skell. The one weapon I have for the Skell is just so damn good. It deals a lot more damage from behind. I actually hit over 40k damage in one swing. Now that was satisfying. So now Lao is beat and Elma threatens to shoot Lao for the data drive. But Lao laughs at her, saying if she makes the wrong choice of shooting him in the head or the chest, the file will be destroyed with it. It's a 50-50 chance here. Before a choice is made, Lynn steps in the way, saying, "Not like this," and that we're all fighting on the same side here. I even step in with Lynn to protect Lao. Bringo's such a badass. Lynn knows of Lao's pain. She lost her family as well. If she had the chance to save her family, she would probably take the risk as well. She says the whole plan was disturbed, corrupt, and inhumane. But that's what makes us human. Being self-centered. Maybe we should have been wiped out, she adds. But this little speech got to Lao and asked Lynn to take the terminal back. He says he's no better than anyone else. It started to become more about him and his revenge. You need to go back to NLA to decode the data terminal. We could technically do it here, but it would take too much time and the Ganglion are already making their move. Lynn wants Lao to return home with them, but he refuses because, well, he would be tossed in jail or worse. For now, we go back to NLA. Lao tells Lynn not to die on him. Lynn also makes that promise to Lao, because if he doesn't keep it, Tatsu will kill him. Yeah, you don't want to mess with him. Then we just get a sad moment with Lao. You should just watch it for yourself.
Not allowed to die. Of course I'm not. Even if I killed myself, I'd just wake up in a new Mim anyway. Charmaine, Chenshi, I'm so sorry, girls. Seems like Papa can't come to be with you just yet. Damn it. I'm sorry. You watch over each other until I get there.
We return back to NLA and give the data file to Vanham. Lynn requests to send an evac for Lao, but Vanham refuses at first because why in the world would he let a backstabber like Lao back here? With enough convincing, however, he obliges and Lao is saved. Well, that's nice. But we're not done yet. We have one more chapter to go through. Chapter 12, the finale, and a pretty wicked one at that. This starts with an announcement from Maurice saying they finally have an exact location of the Lifehold core and will soon be retrieving it. We get orders from Nagi to secure the Lifehold core. Every blade will be a part of this mission, so we're not going to go in with just 4 members. Oh, and Tatsu, I guess. At least that's what I thought for the most part. But you know what, before that, food. We can't go a chapter without food, but Doug isn't too excited about it because we're at war at the moment. He's pretty on edge, feeling that the Ganglion could be at the core and destroying it as we speak. Elma says we can't do much yet until they have an exact pinpoint location on it, so we're just passing time. Doug just doesn't understand and is too worried. Arena backs me up on this by saying we're all scared, but we're all here together, hanging out as friends over food to boost our morale. It's a nice sentiment before we have to go out and fight. Doug and Lynn make up as we eat. Afterwards, we get called in by Vanham to show us the core location. It's in the middle of the ocean off the west coast of Caldros. If this goes without a hitch, we can be expected to get treated with a nice vacation. Off we go. We arrive at the core and the Ganglion are already here, but they are unable to pierce the core's automated defense system. But time's ticking, that core ain't gonna last. All of the cool fellas like me, Lynn, Doug, Arena, Gwen, and Elle are all gonna go straight into the core while the other teams fend off the Ganglion. It's best here to avoid any outside Ganglion, they're not worth your time, unless you want to train. At the entrance, the core speaker system announces there are only 15 minutes left before the shields fail. But it's fine, the Ganglion will waste their resources on the shield for the time being. There's no need to fret for now. Let's head inside. Just a heads up, once you enter the core, you can't go back out, so make sure you've done everything you want to this point. We then cut to a very pissed off Luxar wondering why he hasn't received confirmation of the destroyed core. The lackey tells Luxar that the core is surrounded with a Trion barrier of some sorts. Luxar says it's whack because no human outside the clue system should have access to this Trion technology. He also questions how we could have the ability to make such impressive machinery like Skells. The lackey mentions something about us being the Founder's descendants. Who are they? I don't know. Luxar then gets a call from his crew saying they can't get through the defenses. Luxar takes matters into his own hands and decides to take the Great One's Skell, the Vita, out there to destroy it. The lackey says it's probably not a good idea because the Vita belongs to the Great One and that his body couldn't handle it. Luxar claims he has the Great One's blood flowing in his veins. He will use it because he must use it. Luxar flies towards the barrier and shatters it. But ignore that for now. Here we are at the core, where we see a whole lot of nothing. Doug wonders where the stasis capsules are with our bodies. And this is where Elma gives us the true story to everyone. Well, not yet. Luxar breaks in and Doug's first response is calling him an ugly motherfucker. Yeah, Doug's cool. Before Luxar tries to kill us, Elma asks why the ganglion fear the humans so much, going as far as to use that crippled skull. Luxar becomes suspicious of Elma, wondering how she knew the mech was in an unfinished state, claiming she might have been the one responsible for the Trion barrier and skulls. Maybe. But it's time to fight Luxar and the Vita. The first phase is just a taste of what's to come. It's not really worth going over because it changes quite a bit in the next phase. So after depleting his health to 50%, Luxar admits Elma was right in that he fears humans. The Samarians, the Galactic Federation they're under, I said Crime Syndicate earlier in the video, just ignore that, I was tired when I wrote that one. The ganglion are forbidden to turn against them or they get destroyed, and apparently the humans are their descendants, so Luxar wanted them all dead so they wouldn't have to be ruled over again and could be free. It's a cool story, bro, but I'm still kicking your ass. The true battle with Luxar is pretty rough. Luxar is now able to spawn these balls, which act either as attack drones or defense drones. It's best to take him out because they can be very annoying, especially the ones that circle around you constantly. That's not the only thing Luxar has that's dangerous. His damn sword. Luxar can summon a sword which completely melts your health. It's really not fun to get hit by. Luxar also has the ability to send out a shockwave which doesn't do damage, but it launches you very far into the air for a few seconds. This has ruined my overdrive plenty of times. He also has a stun which lasts forever. You could probably watch the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy at once and still be stunned. The extended versions of the trilogy. During the stun, he'll bombard you with projectiles that hit hard too. Even inside of the mech it can be annoying. But we're not done talking about cheap tricks. Once Luxar reaches low health, a shield will spawn around him, making him immune to damage. There's a shield orb in the center of the arena that's present throughout the whole fight, but it was immune until now. You need to destroy it before you can hit Luxar again. This thing has a lot of health, and after beating it, I get swamped with projectiles because he spawns a bunch of those orbs. Dead again. Oh yeah, you can't leave, so any broken skulls are lost forever now. Well, that sucks. So what was there to do here? The main problem I was facing after destroying the shield orb is what I would just die quickly to the other orbs and his sword attack. I did bump the difficulty down, which helped out a little bit, but there was just one other thing I had to do to actually win the fight. When Luxar reaches 50% health, orbs will spawn near the shield orb. Destroy these when they spawn. When you hit them it does like 1 damage, which can deter you away from attacking them. You need to break them. I weakened their defense with one of my arts and I was able to whittle them down. Then once I reached the shield phase again and destroyed it, I only had to deal with 4 orbs rather than 8. It made a difference, believe me. I didn't even need the skill. Now I can finally kick Luxar's stupid slug butt. Luxar is finally beat. Now it's time to revel. You suck, Luxar. Elma finally gets back to the story. Elma points to the big machine hanging above, the foundation of the colonization program where all of the human consciousness has been stored. Yeah, so the recorded memories, genetic makeup, you name it, of everyone in the NLA and 20 million other people on Earth have been stored inside of the core. All of our original bodies were completely destroyed with the Earth. Lau was right. The memory of our true self was stored away until we could find a safe place and be moved back into a real body. How, you might ask? Well, Elma shows us. The Lightfold is able to recreate a perfect replica of any living thing back on Earth thanks to a bunch of capsules holding a sample of every genetic DNA found on Earth. She even makes a cat. Aw. There was talk of putting actual bodies in stasis, but each ship could only contain roughly 50,000 people at most. The Exodus arcs were perfect in this regard, having the ability to store the consciousness of 20 million people. The hope of Project Exodus was for the MIMS to escort the system to a safe new home and reboot humanity, continuing where it left off like nothing happened. It's a lot for Doug to take in, but he made it this far in a tin can, so he accepts it. So now everything is finished. Nope. Luxar is still alive somehow and is throwing Hadoukens at the core. We gotta stop him. But we got another problem on our hands. The core has another built-in defense measure, the ability to create biological weapons from DNA. But these things are just hideous chimeras. There's a malfunction in the system causing it. This gives Luxar enough time to actually destroy the machine. But to buy us some time, we have an unlikely hero. It's another scene you gotta see because it's pretty badass.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Hideous humans betrayed by their own hideous creation.
Who the hell are you calling hideous?
Wow!
You came!
Damn you!
This was not going anywhere. You deal with the core defenses.
Got it.
Now we need to fight the Chimera before reaching Luxor. All I can say about this part is what the actual fuck is this shit? This whole part was awful. You would think like maybe 5 of these guys would come at you. No. 10 of these guys attack you at once. They deal massive damage and have the ability to stun you in place, canceling your attacks. This was the only point in the game I genuinely got angry because it was just complete spam. I died so many times here. I think I died here more than I died to Gajarg. I had no strategy here, I just kept throwing myself at them with multi-target moves. Didn't work. At most I was able to kill like maybe 3 or 4. I was scared to use my skill because if that broke, it would be gone until I finished this chapter. In the end though, I did use my skill. It can 2-shot these chimeras with arts, but it was hard to pull off because if they targeted me, I was doomed. Thankfully, I got lucky and beat them. That was a completely garbage section. With them defeated, the core goes into its final defensive phase, creating this black mass beneath the floor. Luxor questions why Lao literally and metaphorically stabbed him in the back, reminding him what they did to his family. But Lao brings up a great point in saying that his family and the other 9.98 billion people would still be alive if it wasn't for their assault on Earth. The Vita caves into the floor along with Luxor and Lao. The floor beneath them was actually filled with human DNA, and Luxor dissolves in it. That's weird. Lao gets pulled in by that black mass, however. Lao has another heartfelt speech. He realizes now, after being on this planet for so long, Mims aren't just robots. They're people, seeds of a new life trying to take root and start again. You would think he would die here, but Lao gets this surge of all of Earth flowing inside of him. Lao then emerges as a giant hideous chimera absorbing the DNA around him. Lin attempts to protect Lao again, but this time, Lao stops her. He has no control of his new body and wants to be destroyed, not wanting himself to be the one who destroys all of humanity. Lin agrees and fights alongside us. The final boss, Lao. From what I've dealt with thus far, I expected Lao to be the hardest fight in the game. While he is tough, he wasn't annoyingly tough. Again, the first phase is a teaser. Another cutscene plays when he's low on health. Lao also absorbed Luxor's DNA and now knows the reason why he feared the Samarians. The Samarians actually created the Ganglion race to serve them. The original Ganglion were actually synthesized. They're artificial. I'm still not getting it, but maybe after the fight I will. So the true final boss with Lao, it's not hard. Just keep attacking his weak spots until he goes down. He has a shoulder eyeball, which reminds me of that dude from Resident Evil 2. It's a fun fight still. It makes up for that garbage horde fight from before at least. It's more lore. Luxor and the other Ganglion were implanted with a failsafe, just in case the Samarians lost control of them. The key to that failsafe lies within the human body. Since we descend from them, our DNA is capable of putting a stop to the Ganglion once and for all. That's probably why Luxor dissolved in our human DNA. But our mission is complete. Humanity is safe and the Ganglion are gone. Lao dies, or dissolves, waiting to be reborn again. Lin then checks back with the life hold to see if it's still holding up. Thankfully it didn't really take that much damage. Lin's upset we couldn't save Lao, but Elma says we did save him. Stopping him saved all of humanity, including Lao, who is still stored in the core. It's time to restore the system. But wait, Elma has something to say. She says that one Mim in NLA is actually being controlled by someone in stasis. Who could it be? Well, if you can probably guess, it's Elma. A stasis module rises from the floor, revealing Elma's true form. An alien. She wasn't human this whole time. Don't worry, it gets explained in a little bit. Ella's totally into the new form, but don't get any funny ideas now. Elma wishes we could all still accept her, but of course we do. It's all about what's on the inside that counts. The exterior doesn't matter. Unless you're really fat, and then, yeah, you might need some help. Elma then restores power to the Lifehold. Finally, after 60 hours, our goal is complete. We get confirmation from Nagi that the core has been restored, ganglion have been removed, and the Prospector Division should have the main power up in a few days. And that's that. Power's been restored to NLA, and everyone is doing fine. But we're not done yet, though. We get some backstory on Elma. Elma came to Earth 30 years ago with a mission. She knew a war was being waged with the Interstellar Federation the ganglion belonged to, and another alien civilization, and this war would eventually come to Earth. She came to Earth alone, convinced Nagi that the threat was real, and helped put into motion a plan to save all of mankind. Her alien tech gave us skills to protect us and transfer us at light speed to ensure our escape, which then led to Mimiosomes. Elma was the true hero all along. I think she was the one in the intro cutscene that destroyed all of those aliens too. And that's it. Credits. Well, okay, one last time. There's another cutscene afterwards exploring the inside of the Lifehold. Elma is there to find the room with all these systems storing our memories. But there's a very strange issue. It's all completely destroyed and flooded. But how can this be? If it truly is destroyed, how are the MIMs still activated? Elma says it might have something to do with the planet. The final shot is seeing a washed up Lao on the beach, with the final text saying, "The story never truly ends." So there we go. This is my playthrough of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Man, it was a long one, and might actually be the longest game I'm gonna have to play for this series. But how was it? Let's get into the rankings. So starting off with gameplay. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. The gameplay was very solid. I really enjoyed the combat system. It was a little funky to get used to, but it was really fun to play around with once you get the hang of it. Getting combos off and dealing massive damage is just so satisfying. There's a bunch of different options to choose from when choosing a class, and they all seem great. I stuck with one the whole playthrough just to be safe, but you can definitely use more in a single playthrough, and the environments were fun to explore. Now, it's not perfect, I did have problems. Some of it was alleviated, and some I'm gonna blame on myself. The first problem I had was navigation kinda sucks at the beginning. Exploring the world to install probes can be hard at such a low level because the higher level monsters are everywhere, and avoiding them is pretty tough to do. But once you get the skill, it becomes much easier, and once you level up too. At least you don't have a stamina bar or take fall damage. It would be much worse. Grinding is another issue. Most RPGs have some kind of grinding, so I can't be too harsh on this one. I was speeding along through the game, which didn't help. It's best to take your time, only if I didn't have 150 Wii U games to play, but I digress. Also, some bosses just have this like one-hit KO move. Gajarg, Luxar, Lao, they all have these moves that just like one-shot you. It's kind of unfair, but I guess that's just the boss's like super move. It's annoying, but I guess I can see the point of it. The presentation gets a 5 out of 5. The game looks great. Everything is so well detailed, and the animations for the attacks, enemies, and the skells all look great. The game runs at 30 FPS and it rarely drops below that. The only time would be during a cutscene, and you're not really playing during that, and maybe when you break an appendage off like a giant monster or something, but it's never in the way. They keep it running smooth by having enemies only spawn in when you get really close to them. Luckily, it doesn't affect gameplay that much. You won't get sucked into any unwanted battles from an invisible enemy. I really enjoyed the story. The characters were thankfully not as stereotypical as I thought they would be. Tatsu even grew on me. I didn't really hate any of the characters except for maybe Riz, but she was just a minor character. The main cast is great. The fun factor gets another 5 out of 5. It's very, very enjoyable. There really wasn't a moment in the game where I wasn't having a good time, except for maybe that last Chimera mob fight, and then maybe Gajarg at some instances, but those were just minor sections, so I'll let it pass. You would think after 60 hours I would be bored, but no. The combat really kept me hooked, and doing a lot of side missions for rewards really helped out. It was great. Lastly, replayability obviously gets a 5 out of 5. You can play this game over and over again, which is a sign of a good RPG. There's still a bunch to do after the main story, which would take even more time for me to do. It's maybe some other time. You can also play online with friends too. You can't use Miiverse to talk to them anymore, which is kind of sad, but there's still that option. So the final ranking for Xenoblade Chronicles X is a perfect 5 out of 5, the first game to receive such a prestigious award. Good job, Xenoblade. Again, the game isn't perfect by any means, no game is, but in my opinion this was such an enjoyable experience I could ignore most faults and still have a good time. Was it worth the $82? Yeah, maybe. For a game series I never played, this really surprised me actually. This is one of those Wii U games that haven't been ported to the Switch yet, I said that earlier. It's definitely doable, but I can't imagine me playing it without the map in my hands at all times. Maybe one day it'll happen. But for now, let's spin that wheel again and see what we get next. Alright, we're back at the wheel again. It feels like it's been so long since I've seen this wheel. Xenoblade took like 2 weeks to do, so I'm hoping for something a bit shorter this time. Probably not going to get that, but let's see. We might get Pikmin this time, because we almost got it like 3 times before. Let's go! Well, we didn't get something shorter this time. Paper Mario Color Splash. Okay, another RPG. This one's probably going to take a while too.